As soon as you misunderstand the question, you are very likely to choose an answer that is not correct. Hello and welcome to my channel. My name is Adenike Babalola and my goal is to help you achieve your desired IELTS result once. Now let's get to it. Okay, so we are practicing with one of the tests that we have here. Now this is part 2 of the listening test. And mind you, in both books, you have the same listening test, okay? You have the same listening test in both modules of the exam. You are most likely to encounter multiple choice questions in the 4 parts of the IELTS listening test. So you can have it in part 1, you can have it in part 2, it's also possible in part 3, and finally in part 4. However, for this video, we're going to look at part 2 and part 3, okay? So this is part 2. You see questions 11 to 15, but on this side, what we have is the MCQ, and on this side, we have the short answer question, okay? Now, what is the problem that most people encounter when answering these question types? The first thing that confuses a lot of people is when the speaker is talking, you're most likely going to listen to all 3 options, or let's say at least 2 options. So how do you ensure that you pick the correct answer when you listen? Now that's for multiple choice questions. What about short answer questions where they ask you to pick 2 things out of 5? Notice that in both cases, you have multiple options. If it were a question like note completion, you know that you'll be writing maybe just 1 word or a number, or 1 word and a number, or something like that. But in the case of multiple choice and short answer questions, you're reading a lengthy question and you're reading slightly lengthy or lengthy options. Okay? How do you ensure that you understand the question well enough so that the answer that you choose will be correct every single time? Interestingly, for this particular test, you have 3 multiple choice questions for part 2. You have 2 questions that are short answer questions in the same part 2, but it doesn't stop there. When you flip over to part 3, questions 21 to 26 are also multiple choice questions. And when you turn the page and look at 27 to 30, you have short answer questions again. So if you put them together, it means that you have 9 multiple choice questions and 6 short answer questions. That makes 15 questions out of 40. How do you ensure that you get these 15 marks correctly? That's what we're going to do right now. So I'm going to play the sound for part 2 and part 3 out loud using this Bluetooth device. And we're going to answer the questions together. Now, at the end of our listening process, I'm going to explain how we chose those answers so that you can understand why your answers were right or wrong, okay? I'm going to play the sound from my phone and you're going to listen to it.
2. You will hear a woman speaking to a group of people who are interested in becoming volunteers for an organization called ACE. First, you have some time to look at questions 11 to 15. Listen carefully and answer questions 11 to 15.
Good evening, everyone. Let me start by welcoming you all to this talk and thanking you for taking the time to consider joining ACE Voluntary Organisation. ACE offers support to people and services in the local area, and we're now looking for more volunteers to help us do this. By the way, I hope you're all comfortable. We have brought in extra seats so that no one has to stand, but it does mean that the people at the back of the room may be a bit squashed. We'll only be here for about half an hour, so hopefully that's okay. One of the first questions we're often asked is how old you need to be to volunteer. Well, you can be as young as 16 or you can be 60 or over. it all depends on what type of voluntary work you want to do. Other considerations, such as reliability, are crucial in voluntary work, and age isn't related to these in our experience. Another question we get asked relates to training. Well, there's plenty of that, and it's all face-to-face. What's more, training doesn't end when you start working for us. It takes place before, during, and after periods of work. Often, it's run by other experienced volunteers, as managers tend to prefer to get on with other things. Now, I would ask you to consider a couple of important issues before you decide to apply for voluntary work. We don't worry about why you want to be a volunteer. People have many different reasons that range from getting work experience to just doing something they've always wanted to do. But it is critical that you have enough hours in the day for whatever role we agree is suitable for you. If being a volunteer becomes stressful, then it's best not to do it at all. You may think that your income is important, but we don't ask about that. It's up to you to decide if you can work without earning money. What we value is dedication. Some of our most loyal volunteers earn very little themselves, but still give their full energy to the work they do with us.
Okay, so that is the end of this first part in part 2. Did you get the 5 answers correctly? Okay, so I was doing this because we're doing it together, obviously. Now, just in case you got anyone wrong, I want you to not feel bad about it, because I'm going to explain how we chose these answers, okay? And if you got all 5 correctly, good job, okay? Please put it in the comments if you got all 5 correctly. Just, put your answers in the comment section and I'll look at it, all right? Now, for the first question, it says, why does the speaker apologize about the seats? It means that we're interested in the reason. Why means what is the reason for something. So here you have, why did she apologize about the seats? It means that there was something that was not right about the seats. And what was that thing? Now, when you do this, you notice that before we answer the questions, the speaker, the instruction we had was that we should take some time to read the questions. Now, that amount of time lasted 35 seconds. So it means that you were given 35 seconds to read the questions and read the comments, the options, before the speakers begin to talk. If you don't read the question and at least understand it to an extent before they start talking, it means that what happened in here can confuse you. And that's why many people get confused. The fact that the speakers talk about more than one option. I don't know if that is what it is for you, but many times the problem with multiple choice question is that when they talk about C, they might start talking about C, then they go to A and they come to B, and then you're thinking, what exactly is the answer? Which one am I supposed to choose? I want you to understand that if you understand the question very well, you would know the specific answer you should choose. You would not be distracted when the speaker says something that is in the option but that is not your answer. And that is why I recommend doing what I did as you watched me, as we listened. When you hear an option that sounds like the opposite of what you should be listening to or you should choose, disqualify that option, eliminate it. I have trained hundreds of test takers and I've taught them the elimination method. And if I have a video where I think 2 videos where I practice, listening tests like this. The point is, I always recommend elimination because it allows you to reduce your options. You narrow down your options so that you can choose the correct answer. For the first one, the concern was, why does the speaker apologize about the seats? What is wrong with the seats? And then she was talking about, I hope they are comfortable because they brought in extra seats. Now, if they brought in extra seats, it means that there are not enough of them because there are enough of them. So you disqualify B. Okay, now she says the goal of bringing in more seats was so that people would not have to stand. However, it means that those at the back will be squashed. Now, when you say squashed means that you pack something together tightly and there's almost no space. So it means that there is no space for the people at the back. The chairs are too close together, and that is why your answer for number 11 is C. Some of them are very close together. Did you get it? Very good. Let's go to number 12. What does the speaker say about the age of volunteers? What? So you're interested in the comments that the speaker made about their age. And if you listened, you notice that she said you can be as young as 16 or as old as 60, but it does not matter. What matters is something like reliability. She said age isn't related to the factors that are important to them, and she mentioned reliability. Now, when she talked about young as 16, you might have been tempted to choose young volunteers. And when she said old as 60, you might have been tempted to choose C. But what she was trying to say was that you can be that young or you can be that old, whereas 60 is not that old. But the point is, you can be young or old, but it doesn't matter, because what matters is reliability. And so the age of volunteers is less important than other factors. What matters, is reliability and then other things. So don't be tempted to choose answers that look like the answer, but they are not. So we said our answer for this is C, for 11 is C, our answer for 12 is A. Now look at 13. What does the speaker say about training? Now, she made a comment about training, and she said that the training is face-to-face. As soon as you hear face-to-face, you know that it is not online, so you disqualify C. Then she said that the training does not end before you get in, and even when you join, the training does not end. When you say something does not end, it is continuous. The answer for 13 is A. But she didn't stop there. She said that it is often conducted by other experienced volunteers because the managers have to attend to other things. So don't say because you heard manager or you heard conducted, you now cancel option A and come back to B. Don't do that. Make sure your mind is stable, and the way you can be stable is to truly understand what the question asked for. Okay, so the training does not end, and it is conducted by other experienced volunteers. All right, so that's the answer for 13. Now 14 and 15 says which two issues. So you're meant to pick 2 out of 5. Something you need to take note of with this question type is this is 14 and 15. Your answers can come in any order. You're not bound to one way. You can write A before B, you can write C before D, you can write in any order. She says which 2 options. The question says which 2 issues does the speaker ask the audience to consider? What should they think about before applying? Financial situation means money, level of commitment, how much you are ready to give, work experience, how much work you have done, what places have you worked at, the ambition, what you hope to be in life, the availability, the time that you have to work. Now, these are the things that you should, you should always read through the options. That's number 1, and then paraphrase them. If you explain them to yourself within that 35 seconds very quickly, you would get the answer correctly and you would not be confused, you would not be lost. Okay, so in this case, she said that many people have different reasons for choosing to volunteer, and one of them can be that they want to gather work experience. Okay, but she says that is not important to them. She also talked about the fact that some people do this because it's something they've always wanted to do. That's why you see that I disqualified C and D, because she said that's why it matters to people, but for them what matters is their time. It is critical that you have enough hours in the day. That was what she said. And she said you don't have to worry about, some people worry about money, but that's not important to them. What matters to them is dedication, and that is why we chose B. So we chose time for E. We chose E because she said that first, and then she talked about dedication. B came next. Okay, so our answer for 13 is A. So you have C, A, E, B. Okay, do you understand this? Now let's go on to part 3. Let's go to part 3 and then answer the multiple choice questions before going to the short answer questions at the back. Okay?
3. You will hear 2 students called Hugo and Chantal discussing a talk they have just attended at the start of their course in fashion design. First, you have some time to look at questions 21 to 26. Now listen carefully and answer questions 21 to 26.
Chantal, what did you think of the talk then?
Hi, Hugo. I thought it was good once I'd moved seats.
Oh, were the people beside you chatting or something?
It wasn't that. I went early so that I'd get a seat and not have to stand. But then this guy sat right in front of me and he was so tall.
It's hard to see through people's heads, isn't it?
Impossible. Anyway, to answer your question, I thought it was really interesting, especially what the speaker said about the job market.
Me too. I mean, we know we're going into a really competitive field, so it's obvious that we may struggle to get work.
That's right. And we know we can't all have that dream job.
Yeah, but it looks like there's a whole range of areas of work that we hadn't even thought of, like fashion journalism, for instance.
Yeah, I wasn't expecting so many career options.
Overall, she had quite a strong message, didn't she?
She did. She kept saying things like, I know you all think this, but... And then she'd tell us how it really is.
Perhaps she thinks students are a bit narrow-minded about the industry.
It was a bit harsh, though. We know it's a tough industry.
Yeah, and we're only first years after all. We've got a lot to learn.
Exactly. Do you think our secondary school education should have been more career-focused?
Well, we had numerous talks on careers, which was good, but none of them were very inspiring. They could have asked more people like today's speaker to talk to us.
I agree. We were told about lots of different careers, just when we needed to be, but not by the experts who really know stuff.
So, did today's talk influence your thoughts on what career you'd like to take up in the future?
Well, I promised myself that I'd go through this course and keep an open mind till the end.
But I think it's better to pick an area of the industry now and then aim to get better and better at it.
Well, I think we'll just have to differ on that issue.
One thing's for certain though. From what she said, we'll be unpaid assistants in the industry for quite a long time. I'm prepared for that. Aren't you?
Actually, I'm not going to accept that view.
Really? But she knows it's the case, and everyone else says the same.
That doesn't mean it has to be true for me.
Okay. Well, I hope you're right.
Before you hear the rest of the discussion, you have some time to look at questions 27 to 30. Listen and answer questions 27 to 30.
I thought the speaker's account of her first job was fascinating.
Yeah. She admitted she was lucky to get work being a personal dresser for a musician. She didn't even apply for the job, and there she was getting paid to choose all his clothes.
It must have felt amazing. Though she said all she was looking for back then was experience, not financial reward.
And then he was so mean, telling her she was more interested in her own appearance than his.
But she did realise he was right about that, which really made me think. I'm always considering my own clothes, but now I can see you should be focusing on your client.
She obviously regretted losing the job.
Well, as she said, she should have hidden her negative feelings about him, but she didn't.
It was really brave the way she picked herself up and took that job in retail. Fancy working in a shop after that?
Yeah, well, she recommended we all do it at some point. I guess, as a designer, you'd get to find out some useful information, like how big or small the average shopper is.
I think that's an issue for manufacturers, not designers. However, it would be useful to know if there's a gap in the market, you know? An item that no one's stocking, but that consumers are looking for.
Yeah, people don't give up searching. They also take things back to the store if they aren't right.
Yeah. Imagine you worked in an expensive shop and you found out the garments sold there were being returned because they fell apart in the wash.
Yeah, it would be good to know that kind of thing.
Yeah.
the end of part 3. You now have 30 seconds to check your answers to part 3.
Okay, so that is the end of part 3. Did you get all the answers right? This was a little more complex than the previous one because you have 2 speakers talking. Now in part 2, we have just 1 person speaking. But in part 3, you have 2 speakers. Usually they are students, or you have students with their professor or something like that. The point is, you're going to have 2 people speaking, and when you have 2 speakers, when you have more than 1 speaker, it feels like you're listening to so much information, and it is easy to either get carried away or get lost or not even understand what they're talking about. Now let's take them one by one. This talk was on jobs in fashion design. All right, and you have Chantal and you have Hugo, so you have a guy and a lady. All right, now 21 says, what problem did Chantal have at the start of the talk? The strategy with part 3 questions, multiple choice questions in part 3, is you need to understand what the question is asking you for as it pertains to each speaker. Look at 21. 21 focuses on Chantal alone. That's the only name mentioned. But look at 22. 22 says Hugo and Chantal surprised. So you see that this is only about Chantal. This is about Hugo and 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 Chantal. But notice something. In this case, they disagree. In the previous one, they criticize. In the other one, they agree. In this one, they are surprised. Now look at the final one. How does Hugo feel? This is about Hugo. Take note of agreement. Take note of disagreement. Take note of feelings. Take note of the things they express. Those are the things that they usually ask for in part 3. Okay, and the things that they say things like exactly, me too, yeah, certainly. All of those expressions are used to show agreement or disagreement. Now let's go over these answers together and let's understand why we chose them and not the other options. 21 said, what problem did Chantal have at the start of the talk? Now she started by, a friend Hugo asked about, what he said was, were people beside you chatting or something? She said, no, not that. Okay, that's not it. So we cancelled option C because it was not about people chatting, and chatting is a synonym of talking. So it's not about people chatting. Okay, she said it wasn't that. It wasn't that was to show you that this option C is wrong. She disagrees with option C. Now she said she went early, but eventually she sat down somewhere and a guy in front of her who was tall blocked her view. Okay, so, and of course they made a joke about it that is, you can't see through people's head. So you find that it's not that she didn't get a seat, she got a seat, but the person who sat in front of her was tall and it prevented her from seeing the speaker. And that's how you know that your answer for number 21 is A. Did you get it? Let's look at 22. What were Hugo and Chantal surprised to hear about the job market? Now, they said that they know that it's a competitive market. They know that they're dealing with a lot of competition, but they did not expect to find a range. They did not know that there'll be a whole range of areas to work. That's something that they had not thought of. And so it is not about competition because they knew that already, but they were surprised about the fact that they discovered new jobs, new things that they could do that they did not know about. And this word variety is a synonym for range. The speakers used range while they were talking. Now 23 says Hugo and Chantal agree that the speaker's message was something. Now from what they said, they used the word ash. Okay, she said the speaker was criticizing, talking about the industry in very tough ways, in strict terms. But more than that, what she specified on was, it was a bit harsh. We know it is a tough industry, but we are still first years. It's more like they are still new and they have a lot of learning to do. So for them, harsh is a way of saying it was unfair that she was too blunt with the information that she gave. Now 24 says, what do Hugo and Chantal criticize about their school careers advice? So this is talking about when they were younger, and they said they received so many advice. They received a lot. Okay, so you have so much advice was given, so your answer is not B. But they said they could have brought people like today's speaker. Now, if it is about people, then you know it is about who, and your answer is C. And then they said they were giving so much advice when they needed them. It was not a question of when or how much, it was a question of who. Now, 25 says, when discussing their future, Hugo and Chantal disagree on. Now, Chantal says she wants to wait till the end before choosing a career. But Hugo says, why not choose one now? Now is about time, and time is indicated by when. When is the word that indicates time. Now, 26 says, how does Hugo feel about being an unpaid assistant? He said, I'm prepared for it. Now, when you say you are prepared for something, it means that you are realistic. You have accepted that is what it is. And then, she said that, she's not accepting that. And then he said, but that's what the speaker said, and that's what other people know about it. So it is not the case that they want to change it. They are not changing it. That is the way it is. And he says he's prepared for it. So did you get all the answers right? So 21 is A, 22 is B, 23 is A, 24 is C, 25 is B, 26 is A. Okay, so this is for multiple choice questions. Now let us look at the short answer question at the back. Now this one has to do with the mistakes that the speaker made. What mistake, which two mistakes did the speaker admit she made in her first job? Now in this case, what you need to do when you see questions like this is the first few sentences that you hear would not really be your answer, because sometimes they have to introduce what they are talking about. So the first one or two sentences are not likely to be your answers. But as soon as they go a little further, they would clarify what they are talking about. And in this case, the first thing we heard was the guy talked about the fact that she was paying too much attention to how she looked. Okay, she was more interested in her own appearance than his. And then you find that she eventually admitted that he was right. As soon as you hear that second clause, you know that it has concretized your answer. You're sure that the first answer you're choosing here is B. Remember that you can write in any order. You can write the lower answer before the upper one. The second mistake was that she did not hide her negativity. She had negative feelings concerning her client, and she did not hide it. And that's when you say you have negative feelings, it means that you don't like somebody, and then she displayed it. So you know that the second answer is openly disliking. The second one is E. Now let's look at 29 and 30. This talks about the two pieces. Which two pieces of retail information do Hugo and Chantal agree would be useful? Chantal started by talking about how big or small people are, and Hugo said that is not for designers, it is for manufacturers. That's why you see that we disqualified E. But then he went on to talk about those items that people are looking for but they cannot find because nobody is stocking them, and that's how you know that people want to buy some things but they cannot find them. Your answer for that was C. And then they talked about, she now mentioned that some people take things back. Okay, some people take things back. When you buy something and you take it back, it means that you returned it. That's the word we have here. And then it says, okay, that imagine if you knew why somebody returned something. Let's say they washed it and then something, it split or something, it went wrong. It would be good because you know the reason why they returned it. And that's why the second answer is A. So for this one, we chose C and A. This is how you answer multiple choice questions and short answer questions in the listening test. You see that it requires some work. Let me say that multiple choice question is the most complex question type in the IELTS listening because of the bulk information. You're consuming so much. You have to read a lot and understand what you're reading. You're not just writing one word as with note completion. For these ones, you have to read calmly and understand. And you don't have all the time in the world. You need to be fast and prompt. So I hope that this video has helped you. Remember that first of all, you write your answers in the question paper, but when you finish, you go to your answer sheet. This is what the listening answer sheet looks like. So if you were transferring your answer, if you take the paper-based test, you will transfer your answer. So 11, we chose C, 12, we chose A, 13, we chose A. For 14 and 15, we chose E and B. You have E and B. Then let's go to 21 to 30, which is part 3. So for part 3, for 21, 20, you have A, B, A. Let's write that here. Bless you. Sorry. ABA, then we have CBA, CBA. Let's look at 27 to 30. BECA. Okay, so we have BECA. Now when you write your answers like this, make sure it is neat and clean. Okay, now let's check the answer key. This is test 1 listening, so let's go to the answer key at the back. This is test 1 listening. Okay, so this is it. So let's check the answer for 11 to 12. That's CAA. Did we get it? CAA. Then you have BE. Okay, and we wrote EB, so we are correct. You can write in any order. EB. Then for 21, from 21 to 30, we have ABAC, ABAC, BA, BA, BEAC, BECA. We're still correct. CAAC. Okay, so this is it. We've done 15 questions relating to multiple options. You have the multiple choice question and the short answer question, but I have something I want to show you. Can you see all of this right here? These things are the audio scripts for your listening test. So this means that you can actually come to your book and read the conversation while the speakers are talking. Do this when you are preparing. It will help you. Okay, it will help you to master what they say and how to choose your answers. Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please make sure you like it, share it with somebody you know who is still on their IELTS journey, and make sure you subscribe. And then I'll put the link to other listening videos in my description so you can listen to them. See you in the next one. Bye.